Welcome to channel Piola Isla, where we learn how to think, grow, and succeed through the lenses of wisdom and real stories. Today, we're going to talk about a people who make up only a tiny fraction of the world's population, but hold an astonishing amount of its wealth and influence: the Jewish people. For centuries, Jews have been known as one of the most intelligent and financially savvy groups on earth. Not just because of luck, but because of how they think about money, business, risk, and opportunity. Although they are a minority, it's estimated that they hold a disproportionately large share of global assets and wealth. Many of the world's top investors, bankers, entrepreneurs, and thinkers have Jewish roots. So the question is, how can a people who suffered so much loss, exile, and persecution still become one of the wealthiest and most resilient groups in history? In this video, we're going to walk through 10 powerful Jewish stories about business and money. Simple stories, but full of deep wisdom. These are stories you could listen to 10, 50, even 100 times in your life, and each time they would reveal a new layer of insight. Let's begin. Story 1. The business of memory trees. A Jewish businessman once went to Japan and decided to invest in a small tourist island. He opened a resort area there, but for years, almost nobody came. No matter how much effort he put in, the island was still quiet. He grew discouraged and thought about giving up. One day, a friend suggested, "Why don't you plant more trees to make the island greener and more attractive?" That simple suggestion sparked a very unusual idea. Instead of just planting trees himself, he created something called memory trees. Tourists who visited the island could buy a small tree, plant it with their own hands, and leave a little sign with their name or a short message on it. It was like leaving a part of themselves on the island, a living memory. The idea spread quickly. More and more people came, not just to sightsee, but to plant their own tree. In less than 2 years, the whole island turned lush and green. The resort became well known. And what's even more impressive, the businessman didn't lose money on this investment. He actually made a profit by selling the saplings to visitors. Lesson: in life, there is rarely a situation that is truly hopeless. Most of the time, the problem is not the situation, it's our way of looking at the situation. If you change the angle, you change the outcome. If you want to stand above the crowd, you must dare to think differently from the crowd. Story 2. The burned bananas. In a busy city, there was a fruit shop where a young Jewish man named Yammer worked. He was smart, quick, and full of new ideas. Thanks to him, sales improved, and the shop became very profitable. Then one day, disaster struck. Because of a careless mistake, a fire broke out in the storage area. Most of the fruit was burned or damaged. The only thing that survived was about 15 crates of bananas. But even those bananas had been smoked and darkened by the fire. Their skins looked ugly and unappealing. At first, the shop tried to sell them at the normal price, $10 per kilo. No one bought them. They cut the price in half, $5 per kilo. Still, no one wanted them. People eat with their eyes first. The bananas looked bad, so customers assumed they were bad. Yammer began to think. He realized that the bananas actually tasted fine. Only the skins looked terrible. So first he tried cutting the bananas into pieces, mixing them with other fruits, and selling them in ready-to-eat fruit trays. That helped a bit, but didn't solve the problem fast enough. Every day that passed, more bananas spoiled completely. In a moment of pressure and creativity, he came up with a bold idea. If the skin is the problem, then let's cook the bananas. He started making baked and grilled bananas. Once they were cooked, no one cared what the peel had looked like before. They only cared about the sweet, caramelized taste. Not only did this save the damaged bananas, it opened up a new product line for the store. Sales soared, especially in the winter, when warm desserts were in high demand. Lesson: most people are trapped by their own old way of thinking. They keep trying to solve new problems with old methods. Jewish wisdom says, if you can't solve a problem with the same thinking, change the thinking. When you dare to change your approach, the same problem can become a new income stream. Story 3. The 2 black stones. A Jewish merchant owed a large sum of money to a cruel, cunning landlord. The debt was due. Instead of just demanding the money, the landlord had another plan. He wanted the merchant's beautiful daughter. He invited the father and daughter outside to a path full of black and white pebbles. He secretly picked 2 black stones and put them into a small bag. Then he said, "Your daughter will draw 1 stone from this bag. If she picks a black stone, you must give her to me as my wife, and I will cancel your debt. If she picks a white stone, the debt is canceled and she can stay with you." The daughter had sharp eyes. She noticed he had picked up 2 black stones, not 1 black and 1 white. She understood the trap. There was no good choice. So when it was time for her to draw a stone, she reached into the bag, grabbed a stone, and accidentally dropped it into the gravel road, where it disappeared among all the other stones. Everyone was shocked. Calmly, she said, "Ah, I dropped it. But that's okay. We can simply check the stone that is still in the bag. If it is black, then the one I picked must have been white." Of course, the stone left in the bag was black. The landlord couldn't admit his trick without exposing his own dishonesty. He had no choice but to cancel the debt and spare the girl. Lesson: sometimes every obvious choice in front of you is bad. In those moments, the solution is not to choose between A or B, but to create option C. Thinking against the usual pattern, thinking beyond the visible choices, that is where real intelligence shows. Story 4. The value of scrap. In 1946, a father and son of Jewish origin ran a small scrap metal business in New York. One day, the father picked up a bar of copper and asked, "How much is a sack of copper worth?" The son replied, "About 35 cents. The father nodded, "That's right. But if you turn this copper into doorknobs, you can sell it for 10 times more." The son listened, experimented, and sure enough, they began making more money from the same material. 20 years later, after the father passed away, the son expanded the business. He turned copper into metals, decorative pieces, art objects, multiplying its value over and over again. Then came 1974. The US government began refurbishing the Statue of Liberty. An enormous amount of scrap metal, bolts, copper, iron, and other materials was left over. They put it up for bid, but many companies refused to take it. To them, it was just a headache and a pile of junk. The Jewish businessman saw something different. He flew back from his vacation, signed the contract, and took all the scrap. He sorted everything. The copper was melted down and recast into small miniature statues of liberty, keychains, souvenirs, and other items. The other materials were used similarly to make all kinds of memorabilia. Within 3 months, he turned that scrap heap into $3.5 million in cash. 1 sack of copper had now multiplied its value thousands of times. Lesson: nothing is truly worthless. Things become junk only when we don't understand their potential or don't place them in the right context. What most people throw away, a sharp mind can turn into a fortune. Story 5. The Old Man and the Noisy Kids. A retired Jewish teacher bought a house near the sea. Every day he sat on a stone bench, reading and enjoying the quiet breeze. One afternoon, 3 children discovered the bench. They started coming every day, shouting, laughing, and making a lot of noise. The old man couldn't concentrate, but instead of yelling at them, he tried something different. He said, "I love hearing you kids play here. It makes me so happy. If you come play here every day and shout as much as you like, I'll pay each of you $5. The kids were thrilled. They came every day, screaming louder than ever, trying to earn their $5. After a few days, the old man sighed and said, "My pension has been cut. I can't afford $5 anymore. From now on, I can only pay you $1 each." The children were disappointed, but they still came, though less excited. A few days later, he said, "I'm really sorry, but my financial situation is very bad. I can't pay you anymore. Maybe just 10 cents each." The kids were angry. 10 cents? No way we're going to waste our time screaming here for just 10 cents. From that day on, they never came back. And the old man had his peace again. Lesson: sometimes you can't solve a problem by fighting it directly. You solve it by understanding people's motivations and gently redirecting them. Wisdom is not always about force. Sometimes it's about psychology. Story 6. Carrots, Eggs, and Coffee. A Jewish father had a wealthy family. His daughter came to him one day, upset because her friends were avoiding her. She felt lonely, rejected, and bitter. Instead of lecturing her, the father went into the kitchen. He put 3 pots on the stove, one with carrots, one with eggs, and one with ground coffee and water. He boiled all 3. After a while, he took them out. The carrot, once hard, was now soft and weak. The egg, once fragile, now had a firm, solid inside. The coffee, once just powder, had transformed the boiling water itself into a rich, fragrant drink. He asked his daughter, "Life is like boiling water. It applies heat, pressure, and difficulty. When that happens, do you want to become like the carrot, the egg, or the coffee?" Lesson: you can't control the boiling water of life, but you can choose what you become inside that boiling. Story 7. The coin on the ground. Two young men went to look for jobs. One of them was Jewish. On the way to the company, they walked past a coin lying on the ground. The non-Jewish man ignored it, thinking it was beneath him. The Jewish man quietly bent down and picked it up. The first man looked at him with subtle contempt. During the interview, the first man complained about the low salary, hard work, and small company size. He decided the job was not worthy of him and walked away. The Jewish man accepted the job, worked diligently, and stayed. Years later, they met again. The Jewish man had become a successful business owner. The other man was still looking for work. He asked, "How did you become so successful?" The Jewish man replied, "Because that day, you walked away like a gentleman, but you also walked away from small opportunities. If you don't respect small money, you will never manage big money." Lesson: wealth is built not just from big moments, but from thousands of small, disciplined decisions. Story 8. The 9-to-1 Rule. Another simple but powerful story comes from a man talking to an egg seller. He asked the man, "If every morning you put 10 eggs into a basket and every evening you move 9 eggs to another basket, what will happen over time?" The seller smiled. "Eventually, the second basket will be full of eggs." The man said, "Exactly. That is the rule of wealth. Never spend everything you earn. If you earn 10, spend 9 and save 1. If you earn 100, spend 90 and save 10. Don't underestimate that one small part. Over time, it can change your entire life." Lesson: wealth rarely arrives in one day. It is built through consistent saving, intelligent investing, and self-control. The 9-to-1 rule, spend 90%, save 10%, is a simple but powerful formula that separates those who stay poor from those who quietly become rich. Story 9. Rockefeller and the $1 thumb. There is a famous story about John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in history, who had strong ties to the Jewish business world. One rainy day, he was coming out of a mine area towards the train station. It was pouring, and he stood under the awning of a small shop. A well-dressed woman mistook him for a poor porter or worker. She handed him a suitcase and said, "Carry this to the station for me, and I'll pay you $1. At that time, $1 was still a decent amount for manual labor. Rockefeller quietly picked up the suitcase and carried it to the station. When they arrived, a staff member recognized him and greeted, "Good day, Mr. Rockefeller." The woman was shocked and embarrassed. She apologized repeatedly, realizing she had asked a billionaire to carry her luggage. Rockefeller smiled and said, "Don't worry, madam, but I will still keep this $1. It is honest payment for honest work." Lesson: Jews are known for being frugal and careful with money, sometimes even accused of being stingy. But behind that is a deep respect for the value of labor and resources. They don't waste money just to impress others. They live simply, save wisely, and let their money work in the background. Story 10. Why the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. A farmer owned 100 hens. One day, a Jewish merchant came and offered to buy his hens for 100 coins each. The farmer sold him 80 hens and received 8,000 coins. He was delighted. A few days later, the merchant returned and offered 500 coins per hen for the remaining 20 hens. The farmer sold them too, earning another 10,000 coins. Soon after, the merchant came again, now offering 1,000 coins per hen. The farmer no longer had any hens left, but his greed was awakened. He hurried to a large farm nearby and bought as many hens as he could for 100 coins each, expecting to resell them for 1,000 coins apiece. But when he returned, the merchant changed his tone. "The market has dropped. I can only pay 50 coins per hen now." The farmer, panicked, agreed to sell at a loss, hoping the price would rise later. But the merchant never came back. It turned out the merchant and the large farm owner were working together all along. Lesson: this pattern is seen everywhere in the real market. First, fatten the prey, then slaughter. They use high returns to attract you, make you believe money is easy, and then when you're all in, they pull the rug. The difference between the rich and the poor is not just how much money they start with, but how they think when they see a good deal. The rich are decisive but also cautious. The poor are often greedy and easily manipulated. Before putting money into anything, ask yourself, who is offering this deal? What do they gain? What is the risk hidden behind the promise? My friend, the Jewish people may be few in number, but their way of thinking about money, risk, and opportunity has shaped much of the modern economic world. These 10 stories are not just about business. They are about how to think, how to see opportunity where others see trash, how to stay calm under pressure, how to respect small gains, how to protect yourself from greed, and how to build wealth slowly but surely. I hope these stories have given you new angles, new questions, and new inspiration for your own journey. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue exploring more wisdom, more strategies, and more powerful stories together. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.